Good morning, boys and girls. So earlier this week, we listened to the story, The Ant and the Chrysalis. Now, were there any parts that you liked about the story? I know my favorite part was when the ant came back and the butterfly was gone, or the chrysalis was gone, but the butterfly came and showed them that, hey, I'm the chrysalis. I grew up. This is what happens when you are a caterpillar. Were there any parts of the story that you did not like? Personally, I like the whole story. I like really good stories. Now, what happened to the chrysalis at the end of the story? What did it become? It became a big, beautiful butterfly. So, today we're going to reread the story and we're going to think about what happened in the beginning, the middle, and the end. Also think about how Ant feels and how Chrysalis feels, okay? So we are going to reread. Look out for what happens in the beginning, the middle, and the end. Also think about, remember, what both Ant and Chrysalis feel. Okay. One day, when an ant was scurrying about gathering food, it saw a chrysalis hanging from a branch. As the ant stopped to look at it, the chrysalis moved its tail a tiny bit. "You poor creature," said the ant. "You can't move your tail, you can move your tail only the tiniest bit. Why, I can run around in the sunshine, gathering food and going anywhere I please." The chrysalis heard everything the ant said, but could not reply. After a while, the ant continued on its way. A few days later, the ant passed the spot where the chrysalis had been, but now only the scaly casing remained. The ant looked all around for what had been inside, but could see nothing. Suddenly, a beautiful butterfly landed on a blade of grass. "Here I am," said Butterfly. "I was once the chrysalis. I listened to your words of pity, but knew that someday I would be able to move even more freely than you." So saying, the butterfly fluttered its wings and floated gracefully into the sky, high above the treetops. The ant, amazed, was left sitting on the ground, thinking how wonderful it would be to fly. So let's think about our story real quick. And before we answer questions, or before we look at our chart, let's answer some questions about our story. So we were thinking about how the characters might feel. Now we're going to go through that as we look at our chart. So, what happens at the beginning of the story? At the beginning of the story, Ant meets the chrysalis and feels bad for it. In the middle of the story, Ant comes back and cannot find the chrysalis. And at the end of the story, the butterfly comes and says that he was once the chrysalis, and the ant wishes that he too could fly. Okay, so now we are going to put the beginning and middle and the end in our chart, what we just spoke about. And also we're going to think about what the ant and the chrysalis, how they must have felt. So, do you remember what ant felt at the beginning of the story? At the beginning of the story, the ant sees the chrysalis and feels sorry. Do you remember what the chrysalis felt at the end or the beginning of the story? Well, the chrysalis is waiting to change at the beginning of the story. Now let's look at the middle of the story. We're going to look at ant in the middle of the story and a chrysalis in the middle of the story. In the middle, the ant is surprised to see the chrysalis change. He's surprised, he's amazed. In the middle of the story, the chrysalis changes into a butterfly. And at the end of the story, the ant wishes it can be a butterfly. Also, at the end of the story, the butterfly is happy to be able to fly. Now, thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you later.